Coming up in this series, we install this EV charger. We make lots of dust as we remove a chipboard floor. We get to grip with lots of wires as we change out the consumer unit. We watch an electrician try his hand at a spot of plastering. Highlight some problems you may not even know existed. And Gary vacuums a roof. So welcome to this series where we're going to take you through the steps that we did to install this EV charger in what is possibly one of the most difficult residential installations you could possibly have to face when installing an EV charger. And we've already looked at the challenges, Gary, haven't we?
Yeah, we did, and we reached out to you on social media when we walked you through from the front of this building where the mains end is, all the way to the back at the end of the garden, and you come up with some of the solutions that possibly we've incorporated in this video.
Yeah, so whether you're new to installing EV charge points or you're possibly an end user looking to have an EV charger, we're going to take you through some of the challenges that we have to overcome, which may be useful if you're going to engage an electrician to do that install for you, or you're an electrician who's new to the market. For the seasoned EV charger installers, we've got some great new products, which includes things to speed up your installation, make it more reliable, but even some software that can help you run your EV business and gain more leads from the customers and make that whole process easier in the shape of EV Comply. Now, new market EV charging, there's also even specialist distributors, and we'd like to thank Replenish, who helped us source a lot of the equipment that you'll see in this video.
We've chosen Myenergi Zappi 2 EV charging point, and that means the pen fault protection is built within the unit itself, meaning that we didn't have to go and drive an earth electrode into the ground, which could be really challenging here.
Yeah, it's a major installation problem solved. One of the other major reasons for picking this charger out is this property has solar power, which you can see on the roof behind us. Now, wouldn't it be great if we could divert some of that energy into the charger and charge our car for free, Gary?
Yeah, if we were going to do that, we're going to have to get onto the tails at the metering end in order to clip on a CT clamp. That's going to be challenging. How are we going to get the cables from there to here, Gordon?
Well, we've got a few options again presented to us by the Zappi. Now, we could do that hardwired,
right,
and
okay.
We've got some EV Ultra cable in there, but we've also got another option in the shape of the Harvi, which is a wireless current transformer that gets its power from the energy flowing in the tails and then wirelessly communicates the data to the charge point here. Now, we haven't used that before, so that's why we've hedged our bets, because it's 30 meters from here and over the top of the house back to the meter tails to get that signal. So will it work? Well, let's find out.
Other issues we had when we threw it out to the community was, can we fix the EV charging point to a non-permanent structure in the form of this fence? Yeah,
it's obviously a challenging one. Well, we shook the fence a little bit. I'd probably describe it as a little bit whammocky, and we weren't comfortable fixing to that. So we had our friends at Skipton Sheet Metal. They made us this custom steel bracket, which is substantial, that's actually fitted around the fence post, and then we've anchored that down onto the curbstone below. So that's that problem solved. So I guess, Gary, what we've got to do now is trace this cable route all the way back and see some of the other challenges that we had to solve.
And you told me that's 30 meters, so we better get on with it.
So, Gary, let's have a look at how we solved the challenge of getting the cable from our EV charger, which is on the fence behind this shed, all the way back to the house itself.
We could have lifted this brand new decking, removed the pebbles here and all the paving slabs, and then dug out the soil in order to bury the cable.
Yeah, and I don't think that would have gone down well with the client. You know, it's about minimal intervention, not major civil works in your back garden. Now, some of the viewers did suggest also we could have looked at a mole option, Gary. Now, it's not the black furry thing. We're talking about a pneumatically driven mole to thread the cable all the way from the supply intake at the front of the house, underneath all of this, out to where the charge point was. Now, that is an option, and there's a company offering that service for electricians. So perhaps if you had a long garden or an incredibly long driveway, that may stack up. But we weren't quite ready for that, because it would have meant digging a significantly sized hole at both ends of the cable run, and outside is still the subject of some ongoing defects liability with the builder. So that was a no-go for us.
And we weren't going to fix it to the fence for the reason stated before. This is a non-permanent structure, so we selected 50 by 50 galvanised trunking, which was sprayed black.
Yes, we did. Yes, to blend in. Now we could have just left the cable on the surface. I wasn't really happy with that, and the client does have a dog which is rather fond of digging and chewing at things. So yeah, dog with armoured cable in the mouth, not really the best scene that we want to come back to.
We wanted to future-proof it, so it allows us to put garden lighting in as well. And the customer has also spoke, and we're really excited about this one, about having a home bar, Gordon.
Yeah, so in the future, this shed behind us may be transformed into a larger building that's got a home bar in there. And trust us, we will be along to check out the installation and any additional works that need to go along with that. But that's where again the Zappi comes in, because we mentioned current transformers. So the Zappi not only handles one, but actually can handle 3 current transformers.
That means we could remove the cable that's currently feeding the Zappi EV charger and move it into a home bar area where a consumer unit's been fitted, and then it can manage the current load between the bar area and the EV charging point.
Yeah, so again, that's another future-proof option that's built into the Zappi. The 3rd current transformer, in case you were asking and wondering about that, could actually monitor directly the amount of power being generated by the solar panels.
All it remains now is to have a look at how the cables have gone up the wall and onto the flat roof, and then we'll be inside the house. We've taken our EV Ultra cable out the end of our 50 by 50mm trunking. We've brought it up the left-hand side up onto this flat roof, and we've secured it using our D-line safe D clips we've seen on the channel before.
Yeah, we have. We reviewed them, and they even come in a handy pack for EV installers. It includes a drill bit. So once we're onto the roof, obviously remember that roof's a challenge. It's a fiberglass roof, so we didn't want to fix to the roof itself. Certainly didn't want to drill through it and open up that wormhole of problems. So we've neatly clipped it around the parapet, where we get to a junction box where we're going to convert back to a 6mm twin and earth cable.
Yeah, we are, and in there obviously the armoured cable meets that twin and earth cables. We've also got the Cat 6 cable to continue the connectivity that we've allowed for at the EV charging point.
Yeah, now client, when you turn up with a thick armoured cable, they're wondering, yeah, I don't want my house to look like a factory. So we think the solution we've chosen here to get the cable out to the EV charge point and neatly hiding it behind the parapet is a pretty neat option.
We've now got to be faced with chipboard floors. Shall we go inside?
Let's have a look.
So we've installed our EV Ultra cable around the flat roof area. We've brought it into a storm gland and into a box, and then inside the installation itself we've got a 6mm twin and CPC cable and a Cat 6 cable. But why have we changed wiring system within the house?
Well, we were just thinking, Gareth, it's going to be a bit of a challenge to run an armoured version of that cable through the house and then down to the distribution board and then have to have a gland. Bear in mind, we're trying to keep things very neat and tidy when we get to the consumer unit. If you haven't seen the EV Ultra cable before, we've made a video about it, but just have a little sneak peek at what's in there. It is the conventional cores you'd find in an armoured cable, plus the data cable you mentioned. Now, we're not using it necessarily for data at the EV charge point we've installed. In fact, we might not be using it at all, as we've said. We're hoping the Harvi will come to the rescue on this. But let's again think about future-proofing in 2 areas. So the first one being the shed itself may turn into a barn. We might want to improve the network access when we're working from home. The second thing, if think about EV cars, a lot of them have a significant degree of intelligence in there, which means they do over-the-air software updates, and that's particularly with Tesla cars. They need a Wi-Fi connection to do that software update. So there's another reason why having a data cable out down to the bottom of the garden could be a useful thing.
Yeah, and as we rolled back the carpets and lifted the chipboard floors, we also introduced some extra points within the installation where there wasn't connection for the internet. So we dropped Cat 6 cables off as well, upselling as we went. We also used the rumper sticks in order to pull our cable systems through the floors and work our way down towards the consumer unit.
Yeah, now again, upselling data, again, great opportunity. Check out our networking series if you're not selling data into your installs. But again, for this charge point, if it was an OZEV installation, the charge point has to be smart enabled and have internet connectivity. Myenergi do that through a hub. Now, what we don't want to necessarily do is clutter up the area in the kitchen where the telephone supply comes in and the broadband with another hub. We've already added some other hubs for other smart features in this house. So by adding some data cables, it allows us some flexibility to possibly tuck that hub in this room or possibly one of the other rooms where we've dropped that data cable into.
Yeah, and as we're working our way down towards the consumer unit, that's another thing that we're going to have to tackle. We're going to have to change that consumer unit, and let's have a look at that next.
So before we head down to the consumer unit, Gary, to see what we've done there, let's stop off at my favourite cupboard. Now, we've spent a lot of time in here when we put in an Atatmo smart thermostat system and had to make some changes to the S-Plan wiring system. Now, we again were thinking ahead there because we've now installed the Myenergi Eddi energy diverter, which we have featured before, but we're going to use its true potential in this installation, linked to the solar panels on the roof, but also it works as part of the ecosystem Myenergi have with the charger we've installed as well. So imagine you're out during the day, you can't obviously put the PV energy into your car. Instead, the Myenergi Eddi will divert that energy into the immersion heater to heat the hot water up, and the Eddi and the Zappi work as part of a system, again coupled with that Harvi unit to tell when we're potentially going to be exporting energy. Now, we've made a separate video about the Eddi and specifically showing how we can couple that to the existing gas-fired heating system, so we've got all options covered, so watch out for that.
So behind us, for those who have been following us on this smart home tour, can see that we've replaced the consumer unit. We've done a separate video where we go into all the reasons why we actually had to change it for this installation.
Yeah, but to get the cable here, this was the last bit of this epic journey from the charger out at the bottom of the garden. Obviously had to lift the floor directly above it. Bit tricky getting that last bit, so we had to do a little bit of damage to the ceiling there, and obviously a solid chase down the wall. And Ross from RS Electrics has done a fantastic job patching that up. We just need a few of Gary's decorating tips to put the wall back to where it should be. So I guess now the last bit we need to see is what we've done with that current transformer, and that's outside. So here we are back at the origin of the supply where that journey started in our previous video. We've managed to get that cable all the way here, Gary, haven't we?
I was unbelievably sceptical when you said to me we're going to put an EV charging point in this installation. I thought there's no way we're going to be able to do it, and you proved me wrong as usual.
Well, I'll try my best. So here's the Harvi we've mentioned through this video. So will that radio signal link up to the charger at the bottom of the garden and the Eddi device we'll put upstairs? Stay tuned for that video. While we're here, let's have a look at this supply here, because a lot of questions we get asked regarding looped supplies, which is a little bit of a challenge when it comes to installing EV charge points that the electrician can't correct themselves. We're going to need some input from the DNO, so we've made a separate video about that. Check out that, because that could be a challenging install for another EV charger.
As always at eFIXX, we're interested in your comments. Have you watched this and thought to yourself, well, I've had a more challenging EV install? And you'll leave those comments below. Have you watched this and thought to yourself, maybe EV is not the thing I want to get into? It looks too challenging.
Yeah, I think that's me, Gary. I think I'll stick to home garden bars and that looks much more interesting, and yeah, I'll watch you do the EV installs.
Is there any products we've used in the video that you've also used and you've got some top tips but maybe we haven't covered in the video that you'd like to leave for the community as well? Is there anyone in the comments struggling? You know the answer. If there is, can you answer those for us as well? And we'll try and get back to as many comments as we can.